Hello, I'm Nipper Reed.
And I'm Phil Wolf.
So, settle down, have a nice cup of tea, and enjoy the Venomous Exchange Radio podcast.
Crumpets, Nipper. I want the crumpets.
Well, as you've been such an extraordinarily good boy,
Gild us with that lovely voice of yours.
Okie dokie. Hello, folks, and welcome to episode 4 of the Venom Exchange Radio podcast. Thanks for still being with us. Thanks to my lovely co-host, the rather splendid Phil Wolf. And today we don't have a guest. It's just going to be Phil and I having a little bit of a catch-up and talking about all things venomous that have occurred to us over the last few weeks.
How's it going, brother?
It's going well. Work has been ridiculously busy.
I can only imagine.
It has been crazy, and I'm craving spending time in the snake building at the moment. Oftentimes it's a chore, but when you can't get to do it, I just want some clear time to start going through everything. And I've got new racking, I've moved cages around, I've sold some animals, I've got new animals that are in temporary cages. I've got a lot to do. I need to take about a week off work and really sort it all out, to have that lovely feeling where you walk into your snake building and it's all absolutely tip-top and tucked in.
Yeah.
On top of that, I'm starting to plan field herping trips with Corona, and I don't want to jinx it for everybody, but with Corona sort of lifting a little bit maybe, and airlines are now advertising flights again. I've got some trips planned for various species.
Excellent.
So that's what's filling my time at the moment. It's also the breeding seasons that are coming up and trying to decide pairings, what I'm going to breed, what I'm not going to breed, what I'm going to move on. It's that wonderful time of the year.
It is. And it's funny that, I had just mentioned before we pressed record, I said, hey, do you have a ceiling fan on? Because I just turned mine off because I feel like it was putting a breeze on the microphone, so to speak. And Nipper laughed at me because it's, what did you say? It was -2 by you?
It is, as we would say in the UK, it's -2 at the moment.
-2, forgive me.
It's cold as a bucket of penguin shit here. And it's miserable. I generally don't think in America you have the same style of weather that we have.
No.
We have cold drizzle, so we have cold rain. It's just so unpleasant. Just gets into everything, and it's just, we've got about half an hour of daylight. I think sunrise at the minute is about 8:30 in the morning, and it starts getting dark about 4:30. It's just miserable.
So for those that are unaware of doing the conversion, if you said it was -2?
Yeah.
So that's 35.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And currently where I am, it is 72 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 22.2 degrees Celsius.
And so that's one of the many reasons why I hate you.
Oh, man. And it's funny because last night it was perfect road cruising weather. It was like 65, 68. And I was thinking, man, I don't want to go because I probably won't see anything.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I know we've had this conversation on and off air, but I am so desperate to get out field herping again. Corona has, as we've said before, Corona, lots of people died. It was very sad. But the most important thing is I haven't been able to get out field herping.
Yes, so true. So true.
And now I'm planning trips. It's even worse. It's like I can see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Sure.
So the first trip will be Romania, Bulgaria. For those of you that geography is not your thing, Romania and Bulgaria, European countries, they border the Ukraine in Russia, and they border Turkey. So the species range in those two countries is phenomenal. You kind of get the best of both worlds, as it were. Some fantastic vipers in those countries. You're looking at Vipera Nikolsky, Vipera Renardi, the one that everybody likes, Vipera Amidites. Just absolutely stunning. There's some Vipera Berus as well, obviously. And, further you go, you've even got some of the bigger ones, once you go into Greece, you've got Vipera Xanthina, which is the biggest venomous snake in Europe.
Yeah. Awesome.
I just cannot wait to touch down in another country and actually have nothing to do but field herp. It will be amazing. And hopefully there's 4 species in those 2 countries, which will bring my Euro list down to 2 species. And then I'm planning on a trip to Milos, which is an island in Greece, one of the Cyclades islands in Greece, which is famous for vipers. It's got a species of viper endemic to that one island, which is Vipera schweizeri, or blunt-nosed viper. Sometimes it's a full species, sometimes it's lumped in with the blunt-nosed viper, Vipera lepetina. But it's a beautiful viper, probably at 2.5 foot, coral pink in some cases, really big head, almost specifically a bird feeder. So I need to go. I've seen the blunt-nosed viper in Cyprus, but I haven't seen the one specific to that particular Greek island.
Awesome.
So that's my September trip. And as you know, in June, I'm hoping to hit the United States for the first time in many years. And do a trip with the wonderful Eric Burke and Rob Stone, Mr. Julander, and all those good people, and go rattlesnake hunting. We've got a tick list of 13 species. Rob's done his usual fantastic work, as he always does. And obviously the top species on that trip for me will be my number 1 American species, which is Willardi, Crotalus willardi, the ridge-nosed ridge-nosed rattlesnake. I will be giddy if I see one of those. It's something I've wanted to see for 20 odd years. So
excellent.
I'm super excited. I'm packed already.
Yeah, I'm rather disappointed. My work is impeding me from going. So I will be with you boys every step of the way in both mind, spirit, and on the phone. So.
Oh, mate, I'll be taunting you with photographs. If we find anything, you'll literally be the second person to know.
Yes, that's awesome.
But in that little area, there's so many fantastic rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Willardi, but you've got Pricei as well. You've got Cerberus, you've got Cerastes. There's just some crackers there.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Pyrus, Scutatus, Melurus. Oh, yeah.
I believe Clouds. Will Clouds be there? Clouds will be there, won't they?
Yeah, but I don't know if you guys are going that far south.
No, okay.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know where you guys are actually going, because you guys are flying into Phoenix this time, correct?
Yeah, the last trip that I couldn't go on because of COVID was they flew into Tucson. But this time we're going to Phoenix.
Okay, well then, if you guys go south enough, then you'll find it, and you're right in, you're right on the edge of the Mojave, so you're in business. Yeah. That'll be a hell of a trip. I
cannot wait, mate. I cannot wait.
And just wait, because Justin and Rob, they have a very closet affinity for small lizards.
Oh man,
we've never heard of, we've never seen. So any of the swift stuff, the earless stuff, and the Scaloporus stuff, they're all about it. And when we were in West Texas, they would take 15, 20 minutes to photograph a lizard that you and I would go, it's brown, whatever. But you seeing it there and seeing the vividness of the colors and the camouflage, and it makes you fall in love with those lizards too. So, excuse me, even though we're rattlesnake guys, we're snake guys at heart, it's going to be very cool for you to see the first time you see a chuckwalla in the wild. Right. You'll be like, man, why is that rock running so fast? And you'll have to get closer because it's amazing.
Well, obviously, we both, our other great love apart from Venomous is geckos.
Yes.
And I keep colonyx at home.
Yes.
And I keep brevis at home. To see those in the wild, any colonics in the wild, again will blow me away. It's the same as anything, whatever species you keep. When you finally come to Israel with me,
Yes.
and you see Cerestes cerestes or Cerestes vipera or Pseudocerestes fieldi, as you have now, all
Yes.
these things that you keep, when you see them in their natural habitat, mate, you'll lose your shit.
Yeah. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I hope you take notes on everything that you encounter.
Oh, I am super geeky. I am proper
Yeah.
Victorian. When I go on a field herping trip, I do look like some Victorian explorer because I have a moleskin notebook.
Oh God, I'm envious of your lifestyle.
And I will literally, for everything I see that, I will keep a proper trip record of every species because, as you're well aware, I've done so many trips and thought, oh, I've seen that snake in a different country. It's the same snake. I'm not bothered. And then you come back and somebody writes a paper and that becomes a new species and you have no photographs of it. So
Yeah.
I'm very, very, very careful to photograph literally everything because you never know. And over the years, I've had loads of armchair ticks where I'm sat at home and then someone will ping you. Have you seen this new paper? And you think, oh yeah, that's a new species I've seen. I've already got the pictures for it.
Yeah.
But if there's anything like the colonics, or if we find any king snakes, because I keep Pyromelana, Noblocki, I will be taking detailed, what's the soil like, what's the temperature where they were basking, what's the temperature in the rock crevices, what's the temperatures on top of the rocks, what's the temperature underneath the rocks, what's the humidity like, literally everything.
Yeah. And it's awesome because when we went to West Texas, Eric brought the UV index reader. He brought the ambient temperature reader, obviously the temp gun, and GPS positioning device, just so you know exactly where you are, because Google Maps may not work where you're at.
100%.
So that's very exciting, man. It's gonna be a great fucking trip.
I'm
jealous.
I'm gutted you can't come, mate. Genuinely, I'm
I know.
absolutely gutted. It's but it is what it is. You just have to get your ass over to Europe, and we can go and look at vipers in Spain.
Yeah. I actually just had a friend get back from Madrid. He took his wife and kid there just for a family getaway, and he's telling me about all the museums and galleries and the restaurants. And I asked him, I was like, well, did you get out into the wilderness at all? And he's like, no, that's the next trip, blah, blah, blah. So we'll definitely I have Spain on the mind now too. It's not a priority as of yet, but
Spain, I've got some superb sites in Spain for vipers.
awesome.
You've got Vipera siani, and you've got Vipera aspis, and you've got Vipera latast, and particularly siani, the colour difference in one locality, you'd think you've probably got 5 different vipers.
Really?
You get the concolor ones, you get the striped ones, you'll get spotted ones. Just different phenotypes is absolutely amazing. They are stunning. One of the most beautiful vipers in the world, in my humble opinion. And Spain's a joy to travel around as well. The food's great.
Yeah.
Scenery is incredible. The mountain ranges are absolutely fantastic. There's so many species. Spain is probably, for Central Europe, is probably the epicenter for herping.
And it's crazy because I'm a spaghetti Western freak. I love spaghetti Westerns, and the majority of them, they were all filmed in Spain.
100%,
So I kind of want to go see some of those old historic railway stations and, cowboy outposts and stuff. Because I know they're still there, even if it's littered with tourists.
Yeah. And Portugal as well. We did some herping on the Spanish-Portuguese border. Again, we were looking for things like Vipera latast and that sort of thing. And there is literally cowboy towns. It looks so out of place because you're in Europe, but there's a cowboy town. And there's a lot of the scenery in the Sierra Nevadas and stuff like that in Spain is very, very similar to Arizona.
Yeah.
It's that sort of rocky outcrops, very little green areas, big areas of sort of sand scrub and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Very cool. Very
and
cool.
cheap.
Yeah.
And you've got running up the side of Spain on the border of Spain and France, you've got a mountain range, the Pyrenees, which literally runs the whole length of the border. It forms a natural border between France and Spain, and that is one of the weirdest mountain ranges. I mean, I've been a lot of mountain ranges. I like mountaineering, but this is a green mountain range. It's really verdant. It's amazing, beautiful place. It looks like something out of a film, but it's very narrow. So you've got something that's probably 200 miles long,
Okay.
but only probably 20 miles wide. But just like
Really?
a big green mountain range. And
Interesting.
this unique species on there are fantastic. You need to come out. You need to come out.
Sooner than later, my friends. Sooner than later.
100%. And then, of course, we've got to do some of the Greek islands to get some of the other vipers for you. We'll just come over and we'll do a Euro. We'll do a little Euro tour. We'll show you Amadites in the wild, Xanthina in the wild, Berus in the wild. Amazing.
I'm in. So
That'd be cool.
So what do you have paired up now that it's the chilly time?
So the season's just starting. I've paired I've got an absolutely huge Chlorecus female, Atheris chlorecus female. She's stunning. She's an absolute beast. And I put a male in with her, which I'm quite worried about because he's like a quarter of her size in real terms. I mean, I'm sure he'll get the job done. Don't get me wrong, but when you see the two together, you know, they're both similar age, but the size difference is phenomenal. They're they were in individual, really naturalistic, life planted vivariums. For the venomous stuff, I don't do many completely naturalistic vivariums purely because of it interferes with the handling and that sort of thing.
Of course.
But because she's so, Chlorecus is so green and so arboreal that when they're in a cage that's not that it's not right. They look best with proper lighting and great plants around them. So I put them two in together. I will just leave them now. I won't bother them at all, other than to change the water bowl once a week and to spray every other day. I won't touch them. All of the pygmies are paired up or trioed up at the minute.
Excellent.
So that's a beautiful pink pair of Cistrurus miliaris strickeri, which is stunning. I'd love to get some offspring from those. That'd be really cool. I've got a really nice, carefully curated, because it is quite easy in Europe to get Barbary, but I really did not just buy the cheap, easy ones. I've got some really nice examples, and I've also, I might get some hate for this, but I've also got some striped Barbary.
Good.
Which
and are they reduced pattern?
They're gunmetal grey with an orange stripe.
Oh, that's awesome.
I know. I do. It's the only morph I have in my entire collection.
Yeah, but it goes back to, is it really a morph if it's found in the wild?
Well, that's the thing. That's why I can put up with it and don't feel I'm too much of a hypocrite, because it's a naturally occurring colour variation, for want of a better word. It's not, but these are absolutely stunning. So I've got a trio of those, and they're all together at the moment.
Awesome.
Squams are paired. Broadly, I are too young at the moment, so I haven't paired them.
Okay.
Unfortunately, my male Dendrophila died a little while ago, and I haven't. Oh mate, I'm gutted, but I have an absolute beast of a female. She is huge, super chunky, super aggressive. I literally don't have anything to do with her at all. She's in a really big viv, and again, for most of my venomous, I like to leave it alone. Well, for most of my stuff, I don't get them out for Insta pictures, or I check on them visually to see how they're doing, but I don't hook them out unless I'm cleaning or to do a med check. I don't hook them out. But she is absolutely huge. I had eggs from her before. Unfortunately, that male's died, so I need to try and source a male, because I'd love to breed her, because she's an absolutely stunning animal.
Excellent. Black and yellow or black and white?
Black and yellow. black and yellow, but just absolute tip-top condition. Huge for the species. But yeah, she's pretty much left alone. What else have I got going on? I was going to breed my Flavocens, but I think I'm probably going to move them on.
Okay.
Same with the Nigriceps. I think a lot of the Boiger I'm going to move on now. I think I'm going to go in a different direction. I won't sell the mangrove because
Yeah.
it was one of my childhood iconic snakes. The mangrove snake was on all the TFH books.
Of course.
Every Asian snake book you ever see, it's got that on the cover. So I can't,
Oh, yeah.
I can't get rid of that. But I think for most of the rear fang stuff, I will probably move on.
Okay.
And just my plan is to just we'll probably sell the squams as well. I think.
Really?
Yeah. I won't sell the Chlorechis just because they're outstanding specimens, but squams are not that uncommon. They're quite easy to get hold of. I don't know.
A lot of great breeders are producing them now, both here and there and everywhere. So
yeah, but I mean, to be fair, they're not taking up a great deal of room. I'll see how I feel. But yeah, the rear thing stuff to make way. I want very nice examples of Lepidus and Cloudberry, so decent pairs of those.
A fair trade-off.
Yeah, I think that's the direction because, as we spoke of before, most of the direction I'm going in is North America. So, temperature-wise and humidity-wise, the Mountain Kings and the pines that I keep and that sort of thing.
Now, do you produce the Flavoceps and the Nigriceps?
I haven't bred them yet. No.
I feel like it's tough, man. I feel like you've worked for so long with them.
I know. The annoying thing is I've had them since hatchlings, and they're up to size, but I don't know. I'm sorry, I bred the Nigriceps. Babies were quite hard to get feeding, but I haven't bred the Flavocens, and yeah, they are of an adult size now, or close to an adult size, but you can only have so much. My other obsession at the moment, which is largely down to you and Eric, is Australian geckos. So I've moved on a lot of bigger boids so that I now have a wall of Exoterras. Plus the Underwoody Saurus. There's no way I'm going to avoid it. I'm going to be getting knobtails. It's inevitable.
Excellent.
I will be getting knobtails. There's more. I've got quite a few Stros now, but there's more Stros I want to get. There's more Oedura I want to get. So, yeah. But venomous wise, I'm at the minute I'm so keen to get really nice examples, some really green examples of clouds and lebs and that sort of thing. And I know 100% the minute I go and see them in Arizona, I will want sidewinders and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, 100%. That's what's going to happen. Let me ask you. So when you have, like you said, you have some of the Chlorechis paired up, the squams, the broadleaf, and the pygmies as well. I mean, pygmies you don't worry about too much depending on the enclosure, but you and I have very much have an affinity for live bearing vipers, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Just live bearing stuff in general, and I'd be very eager to see on your different caging how you baby proof the cage, because I can't tell you how many times I've come in the room and there's just baby squams everywhere in the cage, of course.
Yeah, I never understand that when I hear people say it. I mean, I am super anal about venomous in cages anyway. But for the squams, I use the Exoterras, and they're pretty, even for babies, as long as the little sliders at the back are secured. Even baby squams aren't that small. I bred Ceratophora, and those babies were tiny.
Mm-hmm.
But the squams, the babies, they're not that small. So I think Exoterra is pretty safe. For the bigger stuff, I use Vivtech stuff, but I'm not sure it's what we call Vivtech in Europe. I'm not sure it's the same Vivtech that
it's not
in the States. No, because these are MDF style quite large.
Yeah, very different company.
Yeah. So most of my stuff is in large, for want of a word, wooden vivs, and they're super secure. The plastic panels in the back, there's no egress for anything out the back or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah, I get paranoid with I use a lot of vision cages. Obviously, there's a lot of
Yeah.
flaws to that for small species. So I'm constantly using packing tape to seal off, the pane of glass, the channel on the top, some of the screens in the back where the perforated aluminum is a little wider gauge.
Yeah.
So I get paranoid with that. But even some of the exoterras that have been used a lot, and the open close thousands of times, I feel like some of them maybe shift in the plastic, or the plastic bows a little bit. Maybe it's from the heat lamp, what have you. And I feel like I'm too pragmatic and I'm too paranoid that there's going to be a little gap, and the runty squam is going to squeeze right through.
Do you use locks on your exoterras?
No, I have these plastic. I mean, yes, I have these plastic pins that go through the hole, right?
Right.
So a human can't open it per se, but it's not an actual locking device. It's not like a combination locker thing.
Part of the licensing in the UK is I have combination locks on my exoterras for the Venomous stuff.
Oh, okay.
I don't know whether that makes a difference or not, but anything Venomous for the DWA license, you have to have a physical lock that a stranger cannot undo, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So all my Venomous cages have some form of lock, be it the jewellery counter style, sliding door opener, or combination locks on the exoterras.
Yeah, so in Florida specifically, it has to be a room within a room. That's the first thing. And when I get inspected for my new room, whatever it may be, I make sure the room is up to their code for escape proof. So screens on the air vents, bolted on night locks on the windows, any kind of what do you call the framing of the door and the framing of the room? What do you call that?
Architrave?
Yeah. Well, all of that is secured and double checked. There's no cracks or crevices that would go into the drywall. If there's a closet, the closet has to be stripped out completely of all of its contents so that we can make sure there's no holes. Any kind of power outlet is plugged up with the little child plugs so that a snake can't go into a power outlet. And then, of course, you have a door sweep on the bottom of the door that has to maintain pressure so that nothing can slide underneath the door. Key locked from the outside. And then as long as all of those things are accounted for, I don't have to have locks in the cages in the room.
Right. Okay.
But if it's just like my bedroom per se, then it has to be locked that no one else can get into, and so on and so forth. So
yeah, it has to be a brick built building.
Okay.
You can't have a stud wall building. It's got to be a brick built building.
Okay.
And it has to be a room within a room, or if it's a standalone building, it has to have a porch with a glass entrance so you can see into the main building.
Oh wow. Okay.
So that's what I've got. I've got a separate building in the garden because my missus won't have snakes in the house, which is fair enough.
Yeah.
But I have to have an internal porch so that I can shut one door behind me, step in, see through a glass window, open that door, and step in. So there's two doors before the outside, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, I don't have that simply because of where I'm living. I can't do all of that. But Scott put up a great idea when we were talking on one of the shows about how not only does he have a window on his door to look in, but his light switches are on the outside of the room and the inside of the room. So he can flip the lights on from the outside before he even touches the doorknob, which is brilliant. Brilliant. Yeah. So I'll definitely have that in my next room, whatever that may be.
See, I find it really strange that in America or various other places outside of the UK, you're in an apartment building, aren't you?
I'm in a townhouse, yeah.
You're in a townhouse. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have neighbours all around you.
Yes.
Probably with linked roofs and stuff like that, linked crawl spaces.
So, yes and no. So Well, first of all, no, none of my neighbors know, and
Right.
that's for a multitude of different reasons. But I've investigated as to how the attic is connected. Like, if I go into my attic, can I fall into or climb into my neighbor's home? And you cannot, because of the concrete firewall per the South
All
Florida
right.
building code. So if my apartment or my townhouse catches on fire, God forbid, it won't burn down my neighbor's house in theory, So in that sense, I don't worry about escapes in that regard because I also have the escape proof room. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Obviously, if
100%.
there's a fire or
100%.
something, then that kind of changes things. But yeah,
No, I just find it very. And in Europe, in other countries in Europe, you can live in a multi-occupancy block of flats in a one-room apartment and keep king cobras. There's no restrictions.
yeah,
And I just think it's really crazy that your neighbours, as you say, don't know what they're living amongst. But
that's true.
in the UK, you can't do that.
Yeah,
You can't do that. No. I'll tell you one thing I was going to mention to you.
yeah.
I went for the first time in about 18 months to one of the big European shows.
Oh yeah, let's hear about it.
Yeah. Finally, Corona restrictions were lifted because I don't think, I'm not sure if people in the States realise quite how tough some of the lockdowns were.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
In the UK. But yeah, we was finally allowed to travel into Europe. So myself and Ali and a chum of mine, we drove. We got the Eurotunnel across the Channel, drove across France, drove across Belgium, and into Holland. And
Nice.
we attended the big Houghton show,
Excellent.
which it used to be the second biggest show in Europe, but I think because of Corona and various restrictions, it is now the biggest and will continue to be the biggest.
Really?
And this show, I have to be honest, I used to go 2 or 3 times a year to the various shows, but this show, the speeches on offer were outstanding.
Wow.
You've been to loads of shows. Instead of the normal tables and tables of royal pythons and leopard geckos and bearded dragons, they were still there, but not in the same sort of numbers. But some of the other stuff that was available was incredible. It was a joy. I spent far too much money, obviously, but the big problem was I came back and I picked up mites from somewhere at the show. I couldn't, whether it was one of the boxes I transported stuff in or just walking around the show. I obviously checked my animals that I purchased for mites before I put them into quarantine. I couldn't see any mites on them, but within about a week of coming back from the show, I had a mite outbreak in the building.
Oh, jeez.
Which is a pain in the ass. Absolute pain in the ass.
Yeah.
However, I used Taurus mites. And
did you?
Oh, mate. I've used them before. When I think that my last mite outbreak was about 5 years ago. And I used them then. And this time I thought, I cannot be asked with all the normal putting everything on paper. And, I tended to use back then, what was the chemical called? Frontline. I tended to use Frontline.
Right.
But I've lost some snakes, which I think were attributed to Frontline before, so I wasn't keen to use that. So I bought an extra large tub of live Taurus mites, and it arrives, and it's. Do you do liters in the States?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, it was probably about a 10-litre tub.
Oh wow!
It looks. It's a huge tub. It's a big.
Yeah.
And it looks just like you're buying sawdust, and you think, is he just mugging me off? Have I just paid an extortionate amount of money for a box of sawdust? And he's just laughing
crazy.
Because you can't see them.
Right.
And you literally, the majority of my stuff now is in, I won't say bioactive, but it's in semi-bioactive vivs. And a lot of the stuff, particularly non-venomous, is in well-planted vivs. So to get everything out would be an absolute mission.
Yeah, it would be a nightmare.
Yeah, and I'm using. It's not. It's like a cocoa fiber, but it's not the harsh cocoa fiber. It's like a really fine cocoa fiber mixed in with soil in a lot of the bibs.
Okay.
And I literally just took scooped a handful of the sawdust out, mixed it in with the cocoa fiber. Within 2 days, there was hardly any mites. It was
Wow.
Honestly, these things are savage. They were just like a little. It literally I put and not just the snakes. I put the mites in with the geckos. Anything. I even put some down just in the viv floors. In the room floors. And these mites will actively just hunt snake mites.
And see, it's crazy. Henry was telling me about this, and I wasn't privy to it, I'd say maybe a year ago. And I can't understand I couldn't wrap my head around the concept that they only eat snake mites. And then when the snake mites are no more, then they just die and just become part of the bioactivity.
100%. But not only do they eat snake mites,
right?
They eat snake mite eggs.
See, that's incredible.
Which is the beauty of it, because you don't have to do it again.
Yeah. So why aren't we all just doing this?
It's a no-brainer. It's not cheap. That's why. I think this was. I can't remember exactly. I think this was about £89 or something like that for the tub.
Right, so but you're doing an entire collection. If I wanted to get a handful of them for maybe one rack, it wouldn't. I imagine.
Oh no. Yeah, it's cheaper. Yeah. The downsides are, once you open it, you have to use it. You can't really store it. Their lifespan is short. If you're not feeding them snake mites, they die off.
Okay.
So once it's open, you've got to use it probably within a week.
Okay.
It's very expensive compared to Frontline or whatever other chemicals you're using. But for ease of use and for efficiency, and the fact that it's it's a fire and forget. You don't have to do it 8 weeks later or anything like that. And
you don't have to destroy your enclosure.
No, you don't have to rip your enclosure apart. Yeah. And it's really non-invasive for the snake. You're not taking the snake out and rubbing it down with Frontline. There's no harsh chemicals or anything like that.
There's no fumes. You don't have to worry about ventilation.
Yeah, 100%. And the efficiency of it is incredible.
So I have so many questions, and you may not be able to answer them. Maybe you will, but what are they actually used for? They were specifically bred for herpetoculture?
Yeah, 100%.
Wow.
That's all these. My question is, where do they get them from in the first place?
Yeah.
How do they breed them? Because this is a big commercial thing. And how do they keep them alive if they're not got snake mites?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
I mean, I'd be fascinated to go to the tourist factory, for want of a better word, and just see the setup, because in my head I cannot think of the logistics of it.
And now you're taking a handful of this sawdust, and you're sprinkling it and mixing whatever. Now, you said they're macroscopic. You can't see them with the naked eye?
No.
So how do you know you don't have them all over you?
Trust me, I've had worse all over me.
Okay.
You basically, it's like a big drum of sawdust. I say it's much finer than sawdust. It's like oatmeal or something like that.
Sure.
And then you just mix it all up, so you've got a good spread of mites. There is a little scoop thing provided, but I'm a bloke. I don't follow instructions. I stick my hand in and just chuck it in.
Wow.
But phenomenal. I personally, I can only go with my experience. It's the second time I've used it, and it's both times it's completely eradicated mites.
Excellent. We have to get on the bandwagon, man.
And when you think about the application for Venomous,
sure.
Let's say you have a puff adder. Do you really want to be getting a puff adder out of its viv to wipe it down with Frontline?
Yeah.
When you could just put some sawdust in the corner of the viv and that's done.
Yeah, brilliant. It's
You know,
absolutely brilliant. It just makes sense.
yeah,
I poo-pooed Henry for a long time because it just seemed asinine to me. It just didn't seem real. And then the more I looked into it, and the more I looked into it, and the more I looked into it, and I was like, oh my gosh, it is real. And Henry's like, I told you, you should have did it. Blah blah blah. So
I mean, I completely get your skepticism.
yeah,
You know, I'm looking at a box of sawdust, thinking, why have I paid so much money for this? But
yeah.
mites are gone. There is not a mite to be found. I'm very
Now
pleased to say.
they only eat snake mites.
Yeah.
So what about the red mites that agamids get? Would they is it they
I
eat
don't know.
predatory mites, or is it just that one specific
I don't
species?
think it's species specific.
Okay.
I think they are general mite feeders.
Okay.
I think let's say, for example, there was bat mites or something like that in there.
Yeah.
I don't think they care. I just think they feed off of other mites.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm glad it worked
Yeah.
out.
Oh,
And I think it's always so interesting where like you just tried to, and again, I'm not being insulting to you, but you just tried to rationalize where the mites may have come from, right?
yeah.
But you almost physically can't, because
Oh, 100% no.
you could have gone to the show and walked around and they were on your shoes.
Oh,
And you just
100%.
trailed it. You know what I mean? Like it's so.
I am
yeah.
careful when I come. You know, these shows. I'm not sure the size of the shows in the States, but these shows, particularly Houghton, are massive. And you're walking
How many
around.
thousand people you think?
Well, the last ham show had over 100,000 people through the door.
Okay.
Houghton, it was, although the show was bigger, there was less people there because it was ticket only this time. You couldn't just walk in. That's part of the corona restrictions, which in real terms made it a much more enjoyable experience. There was no crowds to push through to get to a table. You could literally just wander around.
Nice.
Even though the actual volume of retailers was much bigger than normal. But yeah, I was probably in the show for 5 hours.
Oh wow.
You know, how many? You've got people from all over Europe that have brought their stock. There's people that have got their private stuff at home that are coming to the show. You know, the chart.
Right.
It's almost inevitable that there's going to be mites around there somewhere.
Yeah.
Normally when I come back, I change my clothes before I go in the snake room and deposit the box.
Sure.
But you can't. You know, the animals are in boxes with substrate in. It's almost impossible not to bring something back from a show. You can try and be careful and but yeah, I'm not being sponsored by them. If they want to sponsor us, happy days. But I cannot recommend them enough. I don't know. Is it available in the States, Taurus?
So I've seen them. I haven't attempted to buy them, but if you go, I think on like Amazon.com, there are several different companies that are offering it.
All right.
But again, I don't know the credibility. I don't know if it's real or better than the others. So definitely send me the link to that,
100%. Yeah.
Maybe we'll throw it up on the Instagram and let people look at it. Because do they internationally ship or no?
I would imagine they will be. The mites are good for, I think, a week if kept at cold temperatures.
Okay. The other thing too is I know certain places that may not be allowed into the United States at all because it's considered a pathogen in some regard.
Yeah.
So I'd have to.
I have a feeling you can get Taurus in the States because I think I've heard.
Okay.
Other people using it.
Yeah.
But if you've got a reasonably large collection, and you get mites, it's a no-brainer. It really is.
Yeah.
And,
it just makes sense.
And it's so stress-free as well, which is phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had too many problems at my facility and other facilities where I've got, if I'm at, back in the day, you'd have 150, 200 Venomous in one room. And what we did is we would use Nick's lice shampoo, which I'm not endorsing. Nobody listen to this and think, oh, Phil uses fucking noxious chemicals. No. What we would do is we would take a single bottle of children's Nick's lice shampoo and we would mix it in 1 gallon of spring water and shake it up and shake it up and shake it up and basically break down the entire bottle of shampoo into 1 gallon of water and then pour that into a spray bottle and spray the animals. And it worked like a son of a gun. But if you didn't have adequate ventilation, the animal was dead by morning because it's just breathing in poison. And I sadly to say, I've killed many animals on accident, some of which that were not mine, because I was unaware of the level of ventilation in whatever I was doing, and it happened. So, going from that old school thought process of kill it with poison to a legitimately bio defense in a natural way, and you don't have to destroy your cage, you don't have to ruin any kind of vegetation that live planting, whatever, and you don't have to stress the animal out either.
100%. Yeah, there's zero stress to the animal. It's a win-win. I'd recommend it to anybody if you unfortunately have mites.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, it's almost better to accept that you may get it one day and at least have a plan mapped out. We always talk about, especially Venomous, what's your plan for this? What's your plan for that? What's your plan for this? If this is going to happen, how are you going to negotiate those obstacles, right? And one thing that we don't think about is something as trivial and common as mites, and they say, oh, I've kept harmless snakes for many, many years and I've dealt with mites, X, Y, and Z. Well, now it's on a monocle cobra and you can't just hold it and wipe it down. I mean, yeah, you could tube it. Yeah, you could pin it, but that defeats the purpose of everything you're doing, So,
and a lot, particularly with mites, you want to be up at the head end as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And for a venomous, you don't want to be up at the head end. So
right. All those mites in the ocular socket, 100%. All those mites in the heat pits of the face, under the gums, under the lips, in the lining of the lips and the gums. Oh, horrible.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do that while it's pouring venom out of its mouth, trying to defend itself. So
not a great day out. The other thing I've done, I've got some sexy new lights. Oh,
really?
Oh, mate. My new lights, you could grow cannabis no problem with the lights that I've just got. They are nice. I think they are actually probably big grow lights for cannabis factories or something like that. But
really?
They're super nice lights.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Again, I don't wish to get on a soapbox and start irritating people. It's just my opinion, and you keep your stuff how you want to keep your stuff, everybody. But if anybody, I think, is keeping particularly Crotalus without full spectrum lighting, it's not right. So all my cages now have UVB, UVA, deep heat emitters and full spectrum lights, and the behavior is fantastic.
Awesome.
Just watching them come out of their hides because they know that the UVA is going to come on. And then when the UVB comes on, moving from the UVA to the UVB for a while, back and forth. It's just beautiful. And the colours, I mean, the visual spectrum, when you've got the full spectrum lights on your animals, they just look so much better.
Yeah.
It's so, I know I bang on about it, I'm probably boring the arse off of everybody, but just get decent lighting for your stuff. Yeah.
In your room, do you have overhead lighting, like fluorescent lighting?
Yes.
Have you ever thought about putting the full spectrum into those overhead lights?
Yes.
Do you have it right now?
No, but it's something that I've literally just bought new light holders, for want of a better word, so I can choose what tubes I put in there, and it's something I'm considering. Not just I've got a lot of loose stuff in the room as well. So I've got 5 different species of gecko that live loose in the building.
I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, some of it's intentional. Some of it hasn't been intentional.
Right.
So I've got 2 species of Hemidactylus. I've got Tarantola. I've got morning geckos, and I've got golden geckos.
Okay.
The golden geckos was completely unintentional. I don't know if anyone's ever kept golden geckos, but they are the most flighty, gecko I've ever come across.
Yep.
Literally, you open the Ectoterra door a centimetre and they've gone. You will not see them again.
Yeah.
And now I can feed them by hand.
Really?
They're just loose in the room. And if I know roughly their sort of territories in the room behind the vivs and that sort of thing. And when I come in, they know they're going to get fed, so they'll sort of edge round a bank of vivs or whatever, and I can hold a locust and they'll come and take a locust or something like that.
Oh, that's incredible.
And I know the kind of spots the Hemidactylus particularly spend all their time on tops of banks of Exoteras under the lights.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you chuck a little mealworm up there, they'll come out and get that. Same with the tarantulas. They're quite active during the day. So, yeah, I think UV lights will be beneficial to them. Also, it would enable me to grow plants in there, which I'd like to do.
Yeah.
Because at the minute, I'm fortunate I've got a large conservatory, but my conservatory looks like Borneo at the moment. And I'm always getting told I need to move some of the plants out of there. So I'd like to grow some of the plants in there. So it's something I consider. But
Yeah, I think people are apprehensive to do that simply because they're worried about the effects on them. They're worried about the effects on the plastic products they have in there and so on and so forth in terms of discoloring and warping and, I'm going to get cancer because I hang out in my snake room. It's like, well, it doesn't quite work like that, but I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I don't think I put like, a 10% UV tube.
No.
But
exactly.
one of the 3% UV tubes, I just think it'll be beneficial for everything.
Sure. Yeah, it physically could not hurt. It can only help.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But although non-venomous, I've got some a stack of fairly large vivs at the back of my room, and I've got Sanzinia in one, pair of Sanzinia in there, and then
Very
I've
nice.
got separate Apodora, very
Right.
large, huge Apodora, and I recently put these big grow light type things in there. I've doubled the heat emitters in there. So they're basically, I stole the idea from Keith McPeak, I can't lie. I've got like a wooden false bottom in there so that they've got quite a large area that they can get underneath. And then they've got sort of large areas on top of these false bottoms with the substrate on, and they've got a big water bowl type thing. And I've got 2 deep heat emitters and 2 UVB spotlights in one area.
Okay.
And I never used to see the Apodora out during the daytime at all. And now with the UVA, UVB, and the deep heat emitters, they come out to bask every day. They literally curl up underneath them. So
awesome.
How can people say that they don't need it? They will survive without it 100%.
Right.
But if you look at, they are shining. They look phenomenal.
Nice.
Yes. So I think for all species, except for the nocturnal stuff, but even on my like the Stropherus nocturnal geckos, but they do really poorly without UV.
Yeah, and I feel like even on the Strophs, if they may be sleeping in the thicket, but they're not necessarily completely in darkness all day long.
No, 100%. I mean,
they're still going to get some kind of radiation.
Yeah, of all the geckos, I think Strophs probably absorb more UV than any other gecko because, as you say, they'll hang upside down on a twig. They won't be in a crevice like Oedura or something like that.
Right.
And as I say, the bush vipers have all got UV deep heat emitters, and they're all, even though they're nocturnal, they'll all sit in a bush underneath the UV. It's a must, I think. When it comes to things like Cerastes, I don't know if it's as beneficial because I've never seen those out in the day, either in captivity or in the wild. They are buried all the time. So I can't see that UV is super important for those. But even the fanfoots, I've got fanfoot geckos, and they're out under the deep heat lights.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, I've noticed that my Cerastes will hug the side that has the light, but not because of the light, but because that's the hotter side
because of the hot
during the
spot. Yeah.
day. And then once it's nighttime, they've come away from it and they go to the cool side. So it's very much they do what I almost expect them to do. And you can see where they were buried in the sand because they assumed that it was going to get hotter, or maybe it was too hot and they wanted to, lower their temperature slightly. But then at night, they've abandoned that and they're completely uncovered and cruising around the cage all night. So it's very interesting.
Have you ever done a temp stat of the actual temperature of the sand underneath the light? I just wonder what sort of temperatures it was getting up to.
So I have it. It's messed up. I have to fix it. It's not what I like it to be right now. And the only reason why I haven't fixed it yet is because it is winter. And I want to keep the temps a little down. But I have the temperature set to be 100 degrees Fahrenheit on the hot spot with a 16 to 17 degree night drop. But the night drop doesn't start until probably 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I have to look at the timer. I can't remember. So it gets, the lights come on before the heat, and the heat stays on longer than the lights, just to emulate the radiantness of the desert.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I don't know if I have a wiring issue, or maybe my thermostat isn't reading correct. I mean, it's obviously reading correctly, but isn't functioning correctly. It's only getting to 89 on the hotspot. So ideally, come June or July, I need to have that corrected so I can get it to 100, 105 where I want it to be. So I have not put a thermometer in the sand under the surface.
Right.
I also don't have enough sand in there that I think would really make a difference.
Right.
Simply because they're in Cambro tubs.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of weight.
Yeah, 100%.
It's a lot of weight. So yeah, the question that you asked, I have thought about copious amounts of times. I just haven't actually answered it yet because things are wonky.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. I have actually seen Serestes out hunting at 13 degrees.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know what the conversion is for that, but it's
Should be
not
like 60 something. Hold on.
Yeah.
So that would be 55 degrees Fahrenheit. So I was close.
Yeah. Where we didn't expect to see anything out at all, and yet that there was Serestes vipera out.
Yeah. Well, I was shocked as when I got them. I started diving into the different weather stations across the Near East, and it was very much uniform 60, 58 Fahrenheit, so right around 14, 13 Celsius.
Yeah.
Every night for the past month.
Yeah.
So in theory, I'm keeping them too warm. I mean, they're perfectly fine. They're eating, they're pooping, they're striking, they're doing what they do. But next year, I'm going to do my damnedest to try and get it down more, considering that everything in the room now, it's all either Middle Eastern, North African, or extreme Southern Africa, and both of which get cold, real cold.
Yeah.
So I'm far enough from the equator, so to speak, that I can really drop stuff, and I think that'll actually help too with the Pyromelina, as well as Subox, and trying to think what else I have that would want some cold. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is the trouble. When people are keeping Asian stuff, African stuff, European stuff, you can't keep it all in the same room.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get you're not going to get your temperatures low enough if you're trying to keep the Asian stuff happy, unless it's Montane Asian stuff, obviously.
Right. And now so as of this point in time, right now, there's only 2 North American species in my snake room. Everything else is African or Middle Eastern, and that's one Gila monster and 1 pygmy rattlesnake, and both of them will not care in the least bit if I get that room into the 60s. So
no, certainly not the healers. I used to take my healers down into the 50s.
Yeah. So
that's cool. So what are your have you got plans for this season?
No, man, everything's still too small, or I want to get them more established. So wrinkles. I want to monitor them and watch them and just soak up as much about them as I can. And hopefully next autumn, actually cool them. I want to get a better chiller because the chiller I have is way too small. I realized that after I purchased it. It's perfect for a few beers, but to put bags or deli containers of snakes, it's not going to work. So I have to figure that out. And then Marcus and I I think it's 28. No, yeah, 28 Cerastes in total. And we have to go through and see what the sex ratio is. And then I want to pick out the choice specimens for pairing. So that way, come like August, September, start to put stuff together even before the temp drop, because I really want them to get used to being with each other. And then start that. The fieldy, they have a long time before they're big enough that I would be comfortable breeding them. My Squamangara I've abandoned because they suck. They're literally sometimes I look at it like I've probed them too.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be a pair, and they just I don't care. I've given up on it. They're just pretty pets. And then as for Bitis, I missed a window to do Tanzanian puffs this past we're in January now. So this past November, December, I missed a really good window just because of work and family and people getting sick and everything else. So I'm going to not worry about that. And then hopefully come again, October, November, try and do some puff adder stuff as well, just for shits and giggles. I'm waiting for these damn Lyassus fuscus to grow more. I know,
mate.
Billy Hunt's chomping at the bit for me to breed some waters.
I just put mine. I've got a trio of fog dams, and I just literally just put those together. They're 5 years old now.
Awesome.
So unrelated, 5 years old. So we should see if we get anything out of that. That would be lovely.
Good.
I also put the Mac lots together. They're about 5 years old as well. That's just what the world needs: more angry, bitey snakes.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, the one I'm most nervous about, as I say, I shall probably put them together this weekend, is the Apodora.
Yeah.
So you've got, two 12, 13-foot snakes going in together, which may...
Literally the strongest snakes in the world.
Yeah, 100%. The only snake that I've kept retics before, but these are the only snakes I've had that have pushed the glass out of vivariums before, just by coiling next to it. They're just ridiculous. Having said that, a chum of mine, who we are still trying to get onto this show, but he's a very busy chap, Pete Gibbons, he brought me a king cobra to show me the other day that he just bought.
Nice.
He wasn't just driving it round, he was literally on the way back from collecting it, and that was such an awe-inspiring snake. It was by far the biggest venomous snake I've ever seen in the flesh. I would say it was probably I'm going to go for 10 foot, maybe 12 foot.
Nice.
And super thick in the middle. It was as thick as an arm. It's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. And
do you know what locality it was?
I don't. As I say. Okay. Pete's got we'll talk to him. We will get him on. Pete's collection is phenomenal, and he's got so many cobras. Like yourself, he's really into the hood tat, which, to be honest, as you know, they all look the same to me. And, it's only a snake that's interesting when it's pissed off, so it's not a great one to keep. So,
all right.
But to see the king cobra with the size of its head as well. I mean, a venomous snake with a head that big, it's got like a head the size of a retic.
Oh yeah.
It's and it just looks at you like you're a piece of shit.
It does. It's because we are.
Yeah, it just looks right through you. It knows it could just top you if it wanted it with no trouble whatsoever. And it's just so chilled out. But yeah, what a phenomenal thing to see. I'd never keep them myself. I mean,
not for me.
Yeah, I've actually got two chums that keep them. but they have dedicated like room size Vivaria for them.
Of course, the way it should be.
Which is the only way you can do it, really.
Yeah, that's the only way that you would ever be able to do it correctly, and that's how I feel every time I go over Henry's house, because he's perpetually showing me bigger and better enclosures that he's designing with some of the leading cage manufacturers out there, and that shit adds up real quick,
Oh yeah, 100%.
But you have to do it if you want to do it right. You have to do it
100%. But it's just a food bill for something like that.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is before Henry ever gets another specimen, he's got 2 years of storing frozen prey items before he actually pulls the trigger.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I'm fascinated by them. I think they are absolute top of the range apex venomous snakes, but they're not for me. I know my limitations. I don't want anything. It's bad enough dealing with an Apodora. Of that size, but there isn't the inherent risk of being envenomated by it. It's a completely different kettle of fish. But fair play.
And your Epidora are tame, right?
Oh no, they're absolute fuckers.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah. No, they're both. I got them both as wild caught adults. Probably, I got the female. For some reason, it's much easier to get females. Males are very rare to come across. I got the female probably 7 years ago, and I've had the male for about 5 years. And by far my favourite non-venomous snakes. They are so intelligent, they're just incredible. They eat scrubs in the wild. They're just phenomenal snakes.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
But no, they're not. I wouldn't describe them as tame. They're like retics. They could be cage defensive, but once they're out,
tolerant of you.
Yeah, they're tolerant. But it's one of the few snakes that I will say to Ali, I'm getting these out now. If I'm not back in a little while, do come and look for me, sort of thing, because they are ridiculously strong, strong. But everyone should have one.
I'm not a big snake guy, man. I never was. I've had retics. I've had berms. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with a lot of king cobras over the years, and I think that's what did it. It was like, I'm too short and rotund to do this correctly. So that's why I've always been a Morelia guy, and now I have the Fuscus, and that's my first. It's my first time personally keeping Lyasis. And I think I went about it right, because my Queenslands are puppy dog tame. They have a feeding response from hell, but they're puppy dog tame. They don't care if I manhandle them and move them around, whatever. And I think I was a good intro to that world, because I know that if I had just gotten, white lips or Sawus, I would just get annoyed and angry.
100%. I've had Savus before. I wouldn't keep them again. I'm only keeping the Maclots because I've had them since hatchlings, and I just want to try and breed Maclots because I've never done it.
But you're going to do with the Nigroceps.
Yeah, well, the Flagosens, we shall see. We shall see. I mean, part of me, there's a little voice at the back of my head that's saying, get some mansions. But
you could do it, man. With your climate, you could do it.
Yeah, I know, but I don't know. Do I want a big venomous? I don't know. No.
And that's the thing too, is I think you would be, just knowing you as my friend, knowing how you think, I feel like you would get annoyed that you didn't have the space
100%.
to give them the justice.
Yeah, 100%.
If you had a spare brick building in your garden, and where it had a ventilation system to the outside world, piping in that nice cool breeze, that nice high humidity, cold rain that you always talk about. Pipe that in, and you had two animals in that room in 12 by 10 enclosures, then you could do it. That's
the way to do it.
I feel like you would be disappointed in yourself because you physically couldn't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see mansions in a 6 by 2 by 2 or something. It's not right. Personally, I mean, if people do that, that's absolutely fine. That's great. But no, you're right. It's not for me. I'm interested in keeping stuff outside. I've got some big nice enclosures outside. Well, I say big, they're like 6 foot high enclosures outside, which are empty at the moment. So that's a potential thing. I've got a lot of smaller ones with European Lacertids in, but it might be nice to try some Vipera berus outside. That's probably. I've got a chum who's just was very successful last year. He's got an awful lot of babies that are overwintering at the moment, so might try some Vipera berus outdoors because they do really well outside.
I think you need to.
Yeah, they just don't do well indoors. And as that is probably my favourite snake in the world, just in terms of field herping and keeping, it's I've got to give it a go at least once.
Sure. All right, and do you where you are they more of the bluish color or are they jet black or?
I'm spoiled. Where I live, there's good populations of the normal color phases, the browns and the lights with the zigzags. But where my other house is, there is populations that have blue specimens in, really healthy population of melanistic ones, and the ones that we euphemistically call in the UK silver bullets, and they are there's an area. I won't give the exact location, but there's an area of a place called Queendown, and it's got a population of the most silver-looking berus.
Wow.
So really nice reflective silver scales, but with a really thick jet black zigzags all the way down the back.
Oh, and incredible!
They're lovely. I did put some pictures on Instagram a little while ago, which I hope you liked, of a couple of males that I found in the year just gone. Again, if you pop over to the UK, I can take you to some phenomenal berus sites.
Yeah. We're gonna do it, man. We're gonna do it. Yeah. It's not just talk, man. We're gonna fucking do it.
Well, I've got I'm lucky enough to have plenty of spare rooms. Just come out, mate. All you've got to do is it's just your airfare. Once you're here, it's nil cost to you. I will feed you. I will get you drunk. I will ply you with all manner of things, and we will I can show you all the UK herps, and then we can pop over to Europe on the Eurostar. What's not to love?
What's not to love?
What's not to love?
Yeah. That's fantastic. Oh, man. Well, anything else you wanted to touch base on before we wrap this episode up?
No, I was just going to briefly mention we've got some new laws starting in the UK now. So the UK is going to be more like America than it has been for a long time in terms of importing and exporting animals.
Really?
That's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. I think it's already just pushing prices up massively. I really do think we will be like the American model rather than the European model by next year. So really? whereas before, the Europeans never bothered about lineage, prices were really cheap. There was loads of easy imports. There was loads of smuggled stuff. I think we will be more like America in it will be mainly captive bred stuff and not imports anymore. But yeah, prices are already noticeably going up, and anything that's CITES will be not impossible to get into the UK now, but it will be an absolute mission. Whereas before, if I went to the show at Ham or Hamburg, I could buy anything CITES 1, CITES 2 or 3.
Really?
And all I would need would be the A10 certificate to bring it back into the UK.
Wow.
Now, as of, I think, as of the 1st of January, we need an import and an export permit. So that means the breeder, say in Germany, has to complete an export permit, and I have to complete an import permit. So that means a lot of money outlay for the exporter, money outlaid for me before the snakes even change hands. And there's no more just going to a show, wandering around with some cash in your pocket and thinking, oh, that looks nice.
Yeah, wow.
Because these forms can take like 8 weeks to get your certification. it's really, really changed the hobby in the UK.
And what brought this on?
Brexit. We're no longer part of Europe. We are, we're Great Britain on our own. I think our alliances going forward will be, closer to the US than they will be Europe.
Right.
So yeah, as we're no longer part of Europe, to bring stuff, well, geographically, but politically, as we're no longer part of Europe, I think getting stuff in and out, it's already noticeable. There's no CITES stuff coming back from shows or being imported. It's going to be really difficult.
Wow.
Yeah. And
yeah,
with us,
what it's like.
Sorry, I was just going to say, and with I think it's really, really well known that Australia is about to make a lot of its animals CITES in terms of reptiles, whereas before you could just go to Australia, you could just go to Europe, pick up some knobtails, pick up some Oedura, pick up some carpet pythons. Well, if they become CITES, you're going to need import and export permits even from Europe.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't matter because our Fish and Wildlife in the States is so not on the same page that, one office says, sure, bring them in. The other office says, no, they're protected. And it doesn't matter if they are or not, your animals just got confiscated. So I feel your pain, sir. I feel your pain.
It's interesting times. As I say, I think a lot of switched on people in the UK are sort of future-proofing their collections. I think why so much money changed hands, and I spent a lot of money at the last show, is you kind of need to get what you want to keep. You need to get it now rather than think I'll do that in 2 or 3 years' time. So yeah. Interesting times, mate. Interesting times.
Very well. On a lighter note, we're going to try and do these and put them out for the first Sunday of every month. If you have any questions about our shows, we have an email. It's venomexchangeradio@gmail.com. Feel free to send Nipper and myself questions, comments, concerns. And we are up on Spotify, Google Plus, Apple Podcasts, excuse me, and the RSS, I can't talk today. The RSS feed. So definitely check it all out. I wish I had more things to talk about, but I don't. But thank you for listening.
That's grand. Thanks for listening, folks. I do appreciate, we both appreciate your time. You could be listening to anything, even stuff on ball pythons, but you're here, which we appreciate. If anybody's bored, do check out my Instagram, because I would love to get over 500 followers. I'm about 480 at the moment. So
you should not have said that, because by the time this airs, I'm going to get you to 1,000.
Mate, that'd be amazing. I've been a bit slack because I haven't been field herping because of Corona, but as soon as I get back out field herping, there'll be a lot more reptile photographs on there. It's normally mostly vipers, but there are other things on there. But no, thanks a lot, folks, and tell your friends, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating on Spotify. That would be grand, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. Bye.